As you probably noticed, I'm not in front of a computer. Well, I'm actually in front of a computer. You can't see it, but the computer is actually there. This is following on from the serialization post that I put up. I put up a couple of serialization posts. I was asked by Technodragon, I think I've got your name right there, about where was the perfect time to load and save user data. Well, before we get started coding, I thought I'd draw a diagram and show the sort of scenes and where you get that information, or where you would load that information and where you would save that information from. So the first scene that you want to do is called the initial screen. And this is going to be like a press any key type screen. So depending on what platform you're on, this screen might be required by the platform holder, and they want you to determine what user has pressed a key, so whether you need to log someone in, that kind of thing. So once we've determined that we have what's called the user credentials, we then move on to another scene. Now, it's good to keep these scenes separate. It keeps coding a little bit easier, and also you know exactly where the problem is. It's like, oh, I'm having a problem with loading the user data. Well, there's only one place we load user data, and that's in this scene here. So if we have a problem with loading it, we can go to there. We don't need to go to the menu or any other place in the code. This is the best place to do it. And this is where we load our user data. Load data. So this is your player progress, and maybe your settings as well. Okay, so that's done on this screen here. And inside this screen, we are going to create, just get another pen here. We're going to create a player progress class. And this player progress class, this is going to be with us through our entire game. So when we load the game, we're going to load it into this class here, or this object here, and this object is going to continue all the way through the game. So it's going to be available through all these screens. So the next screen that you normally go to once you've done this, and this is an immediate load, so this is a wait for any key, and then we go to this screen here, we load the player data, and then we move on to the main menu. And the main menu is just that, it's just, you know, various options that you've got. It's a main menu. I can't go into any more details other than it's a main menu. But in there you can, because we have our player progress loaded, we can actually reference this. So we can reference this. So for example, maybe the bottom option here isn't available because the user hasn't got to a specific world or whatever. So this is where you would determine that, because you can read this player progress, which has been loaded in here and is always available. So we're going to look at how we can keep this in memory. And then lastly, we're going to look at the actual game itself. So this is the game itself here. So whatever the game is over here, we're going to write a bit of code here. And that bit of code is also going to reference our player progress and is going to update it. And so that means that we've got to have like an update function in here, and maybe a save function in here, which is going to get called by this piece of code here. And then this piece of code is either then going to go back to the menu, or maybe it's going to go back and play the next level in your game. So this is kind of what we're looking at today. So we're going to be looking at specifically today, we're going to be looking at this one here, and hopefully we're going to get to this script here. And then maybe the next video we'll look at how we can put all these things together. So that's what we're going to do, and of course we're going to start all of this after the fade. Alright, so here's our project. So I'm going to create a couple of folders here as usual. So I'll call that one scripts, and then inside scripts, I'm going to create one called player progress, and I'm going to create another script called player progress holder. Okay, so here's our player progress, here's our player progress holder. So our player progress is just going to contain the player progress. So I'm just going to create some basic properties for this and let the serializer do its magic. But the player progress holder is the script that we're interested in the most. So for this scene, we're just going to give it, we're just going to make sure that the main camera is black. So the reason why we want to make the main camera black, or whatever your color is, the color scheme that you're going for. Sorry, is the camera crooked? If you're going to go for a white look, then you're going to use the white for the background. But for us, we're going to use just black, because all our screens are going to be black up until the main menu, and it makes more sense to have it that way. So, and the reason why we do that is otherwise Unity complains that there isn't a camera in the scene, so it's best to just have that there. So our camera preview is black. I'm going to create one more folder called scenes, and this is going to be our scene that we do all our player progress holder in here. So I'm just going to call it player progress holder scene. Okay, it's a good enough name. That's all it does. Okay, so we're gonna look at player progress holder here, and Visual Studio just popping straight up there. It's really fast today, actually. Okay, so our player progress holder is going to contain our player progress. So I'm not sure if we should make this public or not. I'm gonna make it private just now. And when the player I want to do a couple of things here. I want to load the progress holder. So the progress holder has to start, and when it starts, we load the player's progress, and we keep it in memory. But after that, I don't want to tie things in here, because I want to be able to use this player progress holder type class in other games. So I think I want to have a public property as well, which is called isReady, and then I can use another script to check that property to see if it's loaded, and when it's loaded, then okay, let's call the boolean is loaded. Okay, so public bool progress loaded, and we'll make that a private setter method, and we'll add some comments here. Indicates because I mean, it might take some time to load the player progress, and we don't want to, we don't want to jump the gun and load ahead of time. So at the very end of start, progress loaded is going to be equal to true, because no matter what, we're going to be loading the player progress here. And get rid of collections there as well, and from storage. Now the storage could be somewhere, it could be on the cloud, it could be on your disk, it could be anywhere, but we're just going to leave that to do there just now, because we're going to have to write another script. So go back to Unity, and our other script is going to be How are we going to do this? Load next scene. Okay, so load next scene is going to wait for the progress to be loaded and then it's going to be there, but I don't really want to call it load next scene. I've called it that. Yeah, we'll come back to it later. I'm sure it'll be fine. So we really load everything. So now in my scripts I have load next scene, player progress holder. Okay, so my load next scene, I want to have a reference to this class, and then when this becomes true, then we load the next scene. So I don't need that. So we've got the player progress holder there, and if, oh, we need the scene to load, so we're going to do public string we're going to have a scene here called main menu, and then it's going to load that in there. So we're going to do if progress holder progress loaded. So there you go, there's our property there, and you can see that once we add a comment to it, it actually appears on here as well, so indicates that the player's progress has been loaded is the same as the comment I just typed. So if it's loaded, then we want to do scene manager, and of course scene manager is not included because we need to add our using. Scene manager dot load scene to load. Okay. So the update is going to wait for the player's progress to be loaded, and then it's going to be load the next scene. Okay. So that's what this bit of code does. Now our player progress holder, this is going to be the only one that we're going to have in our application. So we're not going to be able to use this anywhere. So I want to add an awake function in here. And what I want to say is don't destroy on load. And what I don't want to destroy and load is the game object, because I want to keep the entire game object, because I might put other things on here. The chances are I'm not going to do that, but I might. So make sure that player progress holder and this game object sticks around throughout the life cycle. Wow, can't spell. Okay, so this is our player progress holder. This is our progress. We haven't loaded anything just yet, but we will in a second. This here tells Unity not to destroy it. And then we're going to load the next level. So let's load the next level. All right, so make sure you've saved this level as player progress, and I'm going to create a new level now. All I did was file new scene, and inside this new scene I'm going to create a UI element which is text, just to make sure that we know that we've loaded the right level. And I'm going to scroll out as far as I can go, and I am going to change this to a big bit of text so we can see it, and I'm going to change that to white as well, and I'll change that to main menu. There's a video on how to create UI elements as well, kicking around. Okay, so that's just to make sure that we know that we've loaded the main menu. So I'm going to save this scene now, and I'm going to save that as the same name I gave the other one, which is main menu. Main menu. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my player progress scene, and I'm going to start adding the player progress information. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create an empty one here, which is going to be called player progress holder. Now, this is up to you, but I like to know which objects are always in the scene. So I give my objects a special name. So basically I put double underscore. You could put something else in there, but I always put double underscore. Or you could put, it's not quite a singleton, but you could put that as well. So you could do singleton with progress. And what that means is when you see the listing over here, and if you have it in alphabetic, for example, then you see them all together, and it just sort of helps. So I'm going to call it player progress. So double underscore there. And the component I'm going to add to that is the player progress holder. Now I'm adding the player progress holder. Again, we haven't got to the player progress yet. So that's us. So when we load this scene, when we run the game and we load when this scene is loaded, then nothing's going to happen. Hopefully Unity won't crash in this demo. So you see that it's just a black page. That's all it is. The next one I want to add is I want to add one called load next scene. And you see that it's placed it underneath there. You can actually just drag it out and it'll go there. Make sure that that is not a child of player progress. It's a completely separate object. These all have to be completely separate objects. So don't parent anything in this scene. So our load next scene is just going to be load next scene. So the next scene to load is main menu, and our progress holder is whatever the progress holder is. Now, how to get that? You just drag and drop that, and that gives us our next scene. So now, when we run this scene, it should immediately load the main menu, but also it should keep this around as well. What we first have to do is we have to add it to the build settings. So if we go to, sorry, I'll do that again, File, Build Settings. We see our build settings here. Just select those two scenes there, drag and drop them into the listing here. You might want to reorder them as well because you want the player progress holder one to load before the main menu. Then just click the close button. So when we press play here, when we have our player progress holder scene loaded, press play, and it immediately goes to the main menu. But you'll see that we have our event system, our canvas and our camera, but down here we also have another scene as well called Don't Destroy on Load, and that contains our player progress, which contains all the information that we need. So now our information can come forward. So let's do some test data here. Okay, so first thing we want to do is go to player progress holder, and we see that we have our player progress here. What we're going to do is we're going to load. We're going to add some data to it, and then we're going to load that information back. So the player progress is just going to contain. Well, the first thing we need to do is get rid of mono behavior because we don't want to extend from mono behavior. And we're going to do public string player name, public string last level, something like that. Okay, so we're just going to have a couple of items in here, and we also have to mark it as serializable as well. Again, because serializable is not included in there, we have to do our control full stop, and then we add our system reference, which means we can get rid of that there. So that's our player progress class. Now to save our player progress class, we're going to save it into the persistent storage folder, which sounds like a huge big deal, but it's actually just one path. So we're going to save things in there. So our player progress folder is there. So our start, so when we first load this, we want to get the information into the thing. So we're going to write some throwaway code. So this is debug code to get info into storage. Okay. So the path is going to be the same. So our path is going to be file path equals, and then we're going to combine two paths. The first path is the storage folder itself, which is specific to your game, and the file name. So our file name is going to be data.path or progress.path, that kind of idea. So we're going to do path, which of course we need to add a using reference for system IO, dot combine, and then the variable is actually stored in the application, and it is persistent data path, and we're going to call it progress.json. Well, we don't need to do that. Let's do it this way. So if file.exists file path, progress equals JSON utility dot from JSON, jumping the gun too much. If the file exists, we want to load in the text. So the easiest way to load in text is to just load in all the text. So we can do file dot load what's it called? Read all text. So that gets us all the text, and then we can say progress equals JSON utility dot from JSON all text, comma, type of, no, we can actually specify that as well. So player progress all text. Otherwise, we want to default the player to something. So this is if we have information in there, we want to load it and we want to put that in there. Otherwise, we want to create something and then write that information out so that we have a copy of it for next time. So we're going to create a new player progress, and the player name is going to be AN player. Progress dot last level is going to be the tutorial level. Okay, so that's the kind of idea that we're going to do. And then what we're going to do is we are going to write that out to a string. So string JSON text is going to be JSON utility dot to JSON, and then the object is progress. And then the easiest way to write that out to the file is, you guessed it, through the file one, which is write all text. And we want to write out file path JSON. So if the file exists, we're going to load it into memory, which is what that does. So we're going to load the contents from storage into memory, create an object from the JSON. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to construct a new version of it. The new instance of player project object, and then we're going to save it out to disk. So we're going to save that out to posterity. Otherwise, it doesn't matter which one we choose, we're going to have a valid progress inside there. And the way we're going to know we're going to have a valid progress is we're going to read that information in the main menu. Okay, so remember, we're reading the player progress in one scene and then we're consuming it in the other scenes. Okay, so if we go back to our main menu, so we have our main menu text down here. Let's say we want to add another text element, and this new text element is going to be the user's name, and we're going to make it white as well, and we're going to duplicate that by pressing Ctrl D, and then that next one is going to be our next level. Okay, so we're just reading this information from there. So this is going to be the username, and this is going to be the last level or current level. Okay, I'm going to create a new script here called main menu. You know what, I'm all about originality, but sometimes brute force is just it. So our main menu is going to have a reference to these two values here. It's also going to go and try and find our player progress holder, which will be in the scene as well. So we'll load that up. So this is where it would be nice to have a reference to it, but we can't have a reference to it because we don't actually have it in the scene. So so what we want to do is we want to go and find it, but we do need to have a reference to our text boxes. So again, we need to add our Unity engine.ui, and this is our username, and this is our current level. So we're in the load scene, we could have that reference in there because they would both existed in the same scene. Here we don't have that luxury because they don't exist in the same scene. They're going to get loaded at a later time. So inside our awake, we're going to go and grab a copy of that. So we're going to do void awake, find object of type. Now again, in the other scene I had to wait until the progress is loaded. I'm not worried about that here because I know the progress is already loaded, because if I go back to my next scene, if I go back to my load next scene script, it says if the progress is loaded, load the main menu. Okay, so that's why I'm not bothered about waiting for anything in here. And then in my start function, and again, the reason why I do that is I don't like doing a lot of code inside the awake. I like the idea of the start, especially if you need to do quite a bit of things inside the start, then you can make that a coroutine and so on. So that's why I would split that out there. So our start function, all we need to do is do username.text equals progress holder dot. We don't have progress exposed, so we need to have progress exposed. So let's go to our player progress holder. And we will add another public property, put player progress. We should probably call it something. Progress. And this is the player's progress data, something like that. Okay, so that's what it is. So now we have our player progress data there. We can now go into here and do progress holder dot progress dot, and then we can get player name, and then we've got current level text equals progress holder dot progress dot, and then last level. I've got my nomenclature wrong here, but never mind. And do we need to do anything else? I think we're good. I think everything is okay. So now I can add an empty object in here, which is I'm going to drag outside here. And I'm going to call this main menu controller, and I'm going to add the script for main menu. And you see that it needs a username and current level, so I'm going to drag my username and I'm going to drag my current level text boxes across the main menu. And that should be us, I think. Okay, so let's load the player progress scene. So remember, this is our the player progress is going to load it from disk and then immediately load the main menu once that information is loaded. And once the information is loaded, we can then consume that in other scenes because it's still in memory, as we saw earlier on. So let's run this. And you see, here we go. So we have AN player and we have our tutorial. And that's it. That's all we've got for today, I think. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop it there. It's going on for quite a bit. I just noticed the time there. I'm looking at the clock. We're at 30 minutes already. So yeah, let's nip that in the bud just now. But you can see that what we have now is we have the workings of a sort of an idea of how we can construct a game. What's the sort of best practice? One that I've found anyway. Which is good. So anyway, thank you very much for your time, for watching, for commenting and liking the videos as well, and thank you very much for the subscriptions as well. It's very, very appreciated. It's, you know, shows I'm doing something right anyway. And also I broke 100k views as well, so I was really, really chuffed about that. I can't believe that 100,000 people have watched my little part of the internet, so it's that's kind of cool as well. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers, bye. So let's see what happens when we press the play button. Okay, now couple of things. First thing is it seems to have well, so now when we play this, oh wait, no,